and thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell so that you never miss any of these deeper conversations about the land's living energies and how they weave through our lives. So, for everyone else, welcome back. It's always good to have you here, sharing this path of learning together. So, today, I want to talk about this extraordinary stretch ahead, really, over the December the 19th to the 21st, this new moon and solstice period. You have probably already felt it, this quiet intensity building as we approach the solstice on the 21st. So in the UK, it happens around 3 in the afternoon, but you want to check your local time wherever you are. So the solstice at the moment connects really closely with the flyby of the comet 3i Atlas on the 19th and a Sagittarian new moon around then, depending on your time zone. So the new moon actually falls just 36 or 7 hours before the solstice this year. So there's a lot of things happening over that short period of days, 19th, 20th, 21st. So every year brings a solstice, which occurs in Capricorn. So that happens, of course, but this one stands out in ways that feel profound, really, for those of us who work with the land, listen to the land energy, cosmic energy, are fascinated by human consciousness and our evolution. So if you've been following along with developments this year, I think you'll get a sense that we are at the end of some very long cycles. We're seeing that in things ending in people's personal lives. We're seeing that in the sort of the collapse and systems and structures in society that we are experiencing all around. Huge political upheaval, societal upheaval. So we move through phases where the Earth's deep currents are shifting in patterns that we haven't seen for thousands of years in terms of Earth energy. And the planetary energy lines are sort of reaching a turning point. They're sort of reversing their breath after this long cycle. It's a handover of sort of an old paradigm to something new. We're in that sort of constriction of the birth canal. And this is like the dark night of the soul. We're waiting for something new to be born. Hopefully something more coherent, heart-centered, multi-dimensional, as sort of humans go into that next epoch, if you like, of sort of growing up. So these 3 days from the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st, they carry extraordinary energy for those of us who are attuned to the land and cosmic energy. So as the comet draws close, it's been traveling vast distances. I think it's carrying, seeding new information into the Earth's fields. I believe it is a conscious being, a plasma being. It carries information. And many of us who have connected to it, not just myself, feel these waves of sort of bliss and serenity and love when we connect to it. And the geobiology of Earth, looking at the Earth's electromagnetic fields, show how these events interact with our own biofields, with the water in our body even, and this is potentially clearing really old dense patterns within us and awakening a new vitality as we're sort of reborn into this new phase. Because 2025 in its numerology was, if you add 2 and 2 and 5 and 0, you get 9. 9 is the ending of the number phase. So 2025 was a year of endings, culminations, completions. We have to let go of stuff. So we then had to select, if you like, if we look at that against the sort of vegetational cycle, that's the decay. We wanted to select new seeds. We wanted to select the things that we wanted to continue with, ready for them to reborn in this new phase. So we've come to this end phase, and 2026, the numerology brings us to the number 1, which is all new beginnings. So it's a very potent time. It's a very powerful time to us to create the world that we want to see. And to do that, for this new beginnings to come through, old stuff has to collapse. That's why we're seeing huge political upheaval. It's why we're seeing, societal challenges and unrest, because that whole system has to break apart for something new to come through. So although it can be a bit of a, if you watch the news, it can be a real doom cycle. You think, oh God, doom and gloom, we're all doomed. But it's really important to think, what's actually is is everything's cracking and falling apart so something new can come through. And what we don't want to do is allow that newness to be handed over to power in other people. It's a restructuring of power. It's for us to come together, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, as societies and peoples and communities to decide what reality we want to create. So at the moment, we've got this breaking down of old densities and we've got this new awakening that's trying to emerge. So we're experiencing that individually in our own lives. You might find that relationships are ending or because of economics, maybe you're losing your job, and those things don't have to end for something new to come through. So, as I say, I believe that this comet holds higher consciousness. And I know that, I and others, when we've tuned into it, felt this bliss. And I noticed that other people are feeling those similar feelings. It feels positive, and that positivity feels widespread. So it's like, the Earth has got to a certain phase of cycles where everything must collapse as civilizations, society, systems, structures. And then in comes this comet bringing this huge positivity and higher vibration to sort of seed that on us, to bathe us in that while we go through this stage of, the old fauna and flora of our lives, if you like, are dying, and then the newness has to emerge. So what I encourage you to do over the 19th, 20th, and 21st, and I know we're on the run up to Christmas, but I would encourage you to make extra time for stillness during these days. Spend more time in meditation and contemplation than usual. I know, as I said, we're running up to festivities, we're all busy, but the rarity of these events that are happening now cannot be overstated. This is a hugely powerful time, and if we don't grasp it in both hands, it'll be gone. So, for some of you, that might mean taking longer walks on the land, a bit more dowsing, tuning into the spirit of your home. For others, it can do simply, closing your eyes and dropping into your breath more often so that to calm your nervous system. Sitting on a stone, on your lap or under your feet, candle gazing, or just, simply feeling the ground beneath your feet. Listen to the bird song in the morning and hear the robins are all singing as the sun rises and the sun sets. The rhythm of nature is continuing, and we have to embrace the fact that everything is happening in divine order. So just whatever helps you feel connected to Gaia, to that sort of divine spark within, to know that you are part of this rich tapestry of life and creation, and that you came with something to offer the world. And maybe now is that time for your seed, for the thing that wants to grow within you. It's time to unfurl, to become something in the world. So all these energies, they support, I say, this release of everything that's been holding us back. That will be, can be unconscious mental beliefs about the world and ourselves, our identity that we're holding. And now we can seed, new beliefs about ourselves and the world. We can seed new actions. We can seed new habits. So for anybody interested in earth energy, this is a time to really sense the sort of changes in the earth energy, the changes in the dragons. It's a chance to clear your home, make sure that you're looking at any geopathic stress zones, so you're not allowing sort of disruptive human consciousness to come down some of the energy lines and be in your home and exist with you, so that you're feeling and thinking things that don't belong to you. We can pick up thoughts and feelings and emotions, very easily that aren't ours. And it's really important that we sit within ourselves and know that what we're experiencing is actually ours, and we're not taking on burdens from other people. Now is the time to really get secure within ourselves. And when we do that, when we harmonize with the earth energy, we can co-create with the land's pulse. We can co-create with this cosmic and earth energy that really it gives life to all things, plants, animals, but also your ideas, your actions. It imbues them with life force, because a creation of any degree has its own consciousness. So make sure you clear any stagnant spots of energy in your home, in your landscape. Make calming spaces, get better rest, and then your intuition will sharpen as a result of that. So the solstice then sets the tone really for the months ahead. As I say, the rarity of everything that's happening in the moment really amplify the Earth's rhythms. Sorry, it's a backdrop for renewal. It's where the old drains away and dissolves, and where this fresh, new coherence can start to emerge. So we'll see that over the solstice. And we're also in this phase of the death of one of the pairs of the emperor dragons. As I say, its death is really occurring, now over several years, and it won't be bedded in really for a couple more. But again, these dragons carry the resonance of human consciousness. So this ending of cycles, the ending of societal cycles takes years. It's not something that's going to happen in one day, but the solstice is a really pivotal and powerful moment in that. So let's talk a little bit more about those earth energy dragons, because the solstice, as I say, touches on them in ways that feels kind of pivotal. So there are 6 pairs of emperor dragons. There's 12 in total, and they girdle the earth, the globe, really, like different archers, different pairs going around at different angles. And they may made up of sort of sound and light, electromagnetic frequencies. And they arise really from the friction of the planet's core. The friction of the planet's core, as it's, you've got the molten and the iron and the mass of the rocks, that friction. And they're also influenced by solar winds and lunar tides. So the influence, the sun and the moon obviously influences these great big ultra low frequency waves that really are I suppose I think of them as the Earth's heartbeat. So they have these waves, and they come because they are emitted really from the caused by the center of the Earth, its heart center, if you like. And then obviously, as we are influenced by outside forces, the Earth is also influenced by outside forces of the sun and the moon. So these lines now are, really wide. They're hundreds of meters wide. You used to be like 75 feet wide. They're over a period of time, last few years, they have really, really widened because the old pair are dying off and this new frequency is emerging. So, you can feel this pulse in your body when you go to sites on these lines. If you're not a dowser, you'll feel it. So where these lines cross, they create major nodes, so crossing points of lines. And those are really like potential sort of birth spaces, portals, where this energy is so creative. It helps us bring into being something that we envisage or visualize or want, because it's like life-giving energy. And these nodal points, they are the living sort of energy centers of Gaia, of the earth. So every 2,600 years, a ruling pair, if you like, of these dragons completes its cycle, and hands over the crown, hands over power to the new emerging pair. So the outgoing emperor has been dominant since around 600 BC. And it carried the energy of kind of separation, hierarchy, and conquest. Of things. In one way, I'd say it did carry that energy of separation, hierarchy, and conquest. But I'd say almost that was at the phase of human evolution where sort of a planetary system of structure of societies were being laid out and find out what works and what doesn't. How can we live together? How we not can we live together? And that frequency is fading now. And we're seeing that in the death of our institutions, in the fractures in societies. And we're experiencing that often in our personal lives, that, we can feel like we are constricted and, something's got to give. So the incoming Emperor Dragon, which began to emerge around 2018, 2019, that brings coherence. It brings more empathy. It brings more sympathy, if you like. It brings a more multi-dimensional, heart-centered approach, which I do believe we need. I think we need that heart-centered approach in to go along with intellectual investigation as well. We need to be led with the heart, but we also don't want to give away let intellect go and be heart led, because our feelings can lie to us. We want to be. It's about, I suppose, really, it's about bringing our head and our heart into balance. And I think previously, everything's sort of been head led rather than heart led. And I suppose that's the difference between the old dragon for me and the new dragon. So what that means is, the handover of the old and the new dragon is really going to peak between is peaking now. The peak time was between 2024 and 2027. And 2025, that's where the overlap is the maximum. And now we've got this solstice as well at this time of year, where there's lots of rare things happening astrologically, really, really rare. So we've got this handover of dragons, really rare astrological events. So it's a really peak time. So it's where we'll feel the old decay the loudest. It's where we'll feel the new quickening the fastest. So it's a time really of extreme tension. And then this solstice contraction really, or rather, it's like a tuning fork, brings all the earth energies into harmony for that period of time. So all their frequency waves come into harmony. And then that old breath of energy exhales fully at the solstice, and then the new inhalation begins. That's the birthing of the new, the energy starting to rise in the year, the sap beginning to rise in the trees, the bulbs beginning to poke their green shoots above the surface of the earth. So when we look at geobiology, for instance, that maps the ultra low frequency waves as pulsing stronger, and they sync more with the Schumann resonance. So, that matches when that happens, the Earth's heartbeat really spikes into to gamma waves of, I think it's 40 plus hertz, and that matches our compassion state. So the earth and we are come together in harmony and compassionate state. So for the biology of that, how we feel it in ourselves, the water in our body that becomes more structured, it reduces inflammation in us, it opens plasticity in our body. So this quantum coherence within us gets activated. So the chaos we might normally feel, we come into this coherent state. So it's all about, I said, it's all about old systems crashing and going, new emerges, but us finding a kind of stasis within that. So this shifts really, they touch us on all levels, personal, social, geopolitical. It's a warts and all expose of everything that no longer serves humanity. So personally, we have to confront what doesn't serve us, what we don't like about the world, what we want to see differently. So personally, that might be hidden fears, stuck patterns, in ourselves and in the land that we live in our home. It might be a disconnection from our own body, of our land. Have we been living too much in our head and not in our heart? Have we been bringing our soul gifts and talents to the world? Have we been living in fear? Have we been living in avoidance because of things that happened in the past that we didn't like? I don't want them happening again. So we're living in a place of avoidance rather than sort of adventure and joy and exploration. It's about letting go of all those things personally that are holding us back. So contraction brings them up, this contraction of energies at the solstice as we go contract to the shortest day, and then we start to expand again. So it brings up fatigue, it brings up wounds, and all those things demand our examination. They demand our forgiveness and our love and our sort of integration into who we are. It's about, at this time of year, it's about leading with soul, not with strategy. So our soul chooses the destination of our life. It says, that's the bigger picture for I have. That's what I want to achieve. That's the thing I want to bring to the world. And this is the personhood, my character, my souls, my gifts and my abilities that are going to enable me to bring this thing to the world. And that's normally based in something of our soul values, the values that we hold dear. So that might be justice, it might be art, it might be beauty. But then, that's our soul values. But then it says, I come with this personhood, this body, this character, this unique set of skills and attributes. And that's the vessel through which I'm going to build it. So that's your soul's chosen destination. And then the strategy, the actions that we take in life, they build the path. They say, this is the step I've got to take to get there. And when we take the first step, then the next step unfolds. And then we can see the following step. But we have to take action. And that's strategy. But strategy is a poor leader. We need that soul's destination to then apply the strategy. So divine order underlines all this. It's in essence, it's the shaping the acorn to the oak. It's that essence that says this is the potential, this is what it can become. So this is a time really to trust your soul's voice. And it's really to meet your needs with love. If you need rest, if you need play, if you need beauty, if you need quiet, if you need excitement, if you need community or you need isolation, it's about meeting those souls' needs with love. Go out over this festive period, over the solstice, Yule, go out and find what you need. Because when soul leads, when you give yourself what your soul is asking for, then miracles start to flow. It's when we say, "Oh, I can't have that because I haven't done enough." I, it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you don't have to do anything, but we become our own tyrants. We'll often say, "Oh, I'll give myself that when I've done X." And we need to stick to that, but we also need to make sure we do reward ourselves because what we're in danger of doing is saying, "I will give myself this when I've done this," but then our actions only get us that far out. So we say, "Oh, I haven't reached that target, so I'm not going to reward myself." But actually, we should probably set lower targets and give ourselves a little reward every single time. But we often set our targets too high, then we fail to meet them, and then we don't reward ourselves at all. So it's about not becoming your own tyrant, and it's about recognizing what your soul needs. It's about giving yourself what your soul wants, and making sure you have that system in place to listen. So what we'll see in society is we'll see this sort of I mean, lots of people have said, and I think I disagree slightly with this, that they said that this sense of separation amongst society will loosen. And I don't think that's going to happen on the world stage, because for that to happen on the world stage, all cultures and societies have got to want to get along with each other. And we're not there yet. There are some societies that want to get along with others, and there are some that want to dominate. So we're not there yet. I think what we'll see is I think we'll see communities rebuild empathy with each other. So at the moment, we have a kind of crisis in the West, um, where Christendom has sort of receded, and we have this influx of sort of globalization, the left and Islam coming in, which is undermining our communities and our belief systems. And I think what we'll see is we will see communities, particularly Western communities, will rebuild empathy towards each other and a sense of shared stewardship. And I think old divisions between those societies are much likely going to soften as a sort of coherence about this is who we are as a people begins to rise again. And I think hopefully that would happen in other cultures as well. The more we can remove divisions within cultures and societies, the less likely we are to see them fracturing against each other. As the saying goes, if don't criticize the world unless you've got your own house in order. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of antagonistic um, energy being pushed out there because, our own houses aren't in order. And that is happening on an individual level, it's happening on a community level, a society level, and a political level. And I think what we mean by this separation, it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be one, as I said, because we're not there, nowhere near there yet in the world. You know, there's a lot of hate and antagonism going out, and some people will buy into this. Yes, we can all become one, but then there's another person who doesn't want to become one with you, so that it's not going to happen. So what we'll need to rebuild where we can is community empathy, shared stewardship of our towns, of our cities, of our nations, whatever, so that we are all of, that separation between peoples is reduced, and that makes stronger peoples. I do think nations are important. I don't think we can do away with nation states. I'm not a fan of globalism. We have a lots of different peoples, lots of different cultures, and lots of different everything, and they should all be allowed to thrive. So I think in that, we'll see a grittier geopolitical reality. We will see hierarchies crack, leaders who have not been serving their people, maybe in for a rude awakening. Um, Tensions will flare in contested lands. Economies will strain under exploitation as all these old systems start to fall. So there is pain, before coherence. If it's like a birthing moment, there is pain going down the birth canal before the new baby arrives in the world. And there is, so there's pain before coherence. And there is dominance before there is unity, because there will be people trying to dominate and control, and that has to be broken down before people will come together in unity. So we can confront the sort of nitty gritty of the geopolitics, if we can confront that collectively, if we can look at what we want as a peoples, as a society, whether that be what you want in your town, what you want in your district, what you want of your nation, or what you want of the Western world or the Eastern world, or whatever. But we need to look at what we want to rebuild kingship with within communities and between communities, because we have been pushed to be fractured, but through globalism and through, that says, we're all equal, and almost like human beings are interchangeable little units in society, and of course they're not. Over the last, thousands of years, communities and cultures and nations have evolved characteristics and languages and peoples, and all those are valid, but they're also, under this threat from this fracturing. But from this, we have to see the things that we hold dear. And this is why this political discourse is as it is at the moment. You may not agree with me, but that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinion. But I think what we'll do is, I think we will see, nation states begin to say, we're proud of our history, we're proud of our culture. This is what it means to be, German, French, Spanish, whatever. And we want to build a nation. We want to build a much more cohesive community within our nation, but also within the Western world, so that we can, live the life that we want to see, that's not controlling and rigid and based on dominance and, whatever. So this is the challenge that we're in at the moment. And as I say, 2025 was this ending year. 2026 is like the very beginning of the new beginning. So it's not like we're going to move into the new year and everything's suddenly going to be okay. It's just that new beginnings of new beginnings. So it's like, yeah, it's like once you've been through the birthing period, you end up with a new baby and think, oh yeah, the baby's here. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. And then you have the hell on earth that is looking after a new baby. So we will then go into that, oh my God, we've got to develop new political systems. We've got to develop new this. We've got to, how will work in this new world? Will we be working the same? Or will we all be allowed to follow our passion, our talents more? Will we introduce more aptitude tests or intelligence tests at school so that people can actually go to work with doing things that actually suits their skills, their attributes? Excuse me. How will we restructure education? How will we restructure health? Will we stop treating the symptoms and start to ensure that people are eating healthy food that's grown locally? And, that we have more active lifestyles, and, how will we restructure things? That's down to us all to decide, because if systems and structures start to collapse in society, from political to education to whatever, and I think we will see all these things cracking and breaking more than we are now, it's we, with this new energy of coherence and a shift in power from hierarchy to spread, you know, we have power. We have enormous creative power as human beings. We are not God, but we are built in God's image. We have this huge creative power within us. We get to decide what our society looks like, what our individual lives look like. So we want to come from that, from a place where we have got our own house in order. I understand who I am. Know thyself. Get your own house in order, and then you can contribute meaningfully to the world that you want to see. Understand how your own thinking is limited. I mean, I'm constantly self-analyzing my own thinking, my own understanding. I'm constantly reading books to understand everything about not just like earth energies and geobiology. I read vast amounts of political books. I read vast amounts of philosophy. It's important to understand, your own concept of reality, where that comes from, where are your gaps, where are your blind spots, so that you can start to rebuild your life and bring your gifts and talents that you came with as a soul to bear in the world, to bear fruit for yourself and for other people, because that's what our soul gifts are supposed to do. They're supposed to be there so that we contribute to the world, so we add something to the world. So, this is our call at the moment with the big changes in the Earth energy dragons going on over the next, we're in that moment, 2024 to about 2027. And then we've got the mid gap, the mid overlap is 2025. And now we're in this 2025 solstice, and we have this comet through our atlas coming in, bringing in, I think, higher consciousness, higher energy, seeding it in the world. This is our call to step up to that higher energy. So understand the energy in your home. Understand the soul lessons that are hidden in the energy blueprint of your home. Who are you? What did you come here to do? So over this solstice period, I say, take some time in self-reflection. Listen to what your soul needs. If you think, I don't know what I came here to do, I've no idea what my skills and talents are. Don't know. Take some time in soul reflection. What practical steps can you do to understand what your skills are? Take an aptitude test. You can do one online. It looks at how you think, whether you're practical or analytical. Take an IQ test. Find out how intelligent you are. Are you maximizing that? What natural skills and abilities? Are you good with music? Are you good with making things? Embrace the skills and talents that you have. Because I know, it is hard. So many people go through life not knowing what they're good at. This is why I think aptitude tests ought to be taken in schools. And I think they ought to be done when we go out to work to find out what we are actually good at. And then, therefore, you will know, and you can then choose career paths that are going to give you, whether you work for yourself, whether you work for somebody else, that you're going to go into a career path that's going to fulfill you rather than just what we have been doing is so many people just going out to work because they need that pay packet and leading a totally unfulfilled life. And then we haven't got time to grow our own food, which means we're sort of becoming synthetic people because we're not eating food that we grow in this place where we're getting the vitamins and minerals basically out of the soil, going into the food and then into our body, which is then creating our cells. We should have that level of spiritual and physical link with the landscape. And yet now we live lives on the surface of the earth. No one knows what the moon phase is. They don't know where their food comes from. They just get up in the morning, turn on the lights, go out to work, come back, prepare some food or to eat ready-made food. And then, that's not life. We really do need to get back to a more real life, I think, in connection with the earth landscape and looking at these bigger pictures in the cosmos. Our lives are only short. We're part of some huge, humanity is on this big, long evolutionary path. My life is a little blink in that. So, but what I want to do is to make sure that the soul gifts and talents that I came with contribute to that rich tapestry of life. So use the days. The 19th seeds this new moon. It's a great time to set intentions. And you have this comet as 3i Atlas goes past us, with this higher energy of bliss, this higher consciousness. Set good intentions, really meaningful intentions. How are you going to contribute to this new world? What can you do each day? And on the 20th, you can sit, cogitate, let these seeds sit within you. Think about it a little bit. And on the 21st, on the solstice, this is at that moment of release. It's that real point of contraction of everything collapsing and dying and stopping. And then after the 21st, everything starts to awake, renew. We finish the exhalation and we start to exhale again. And that seed then is set. That's the seed we take in. And then your intentions in the Sagittarius new moon that you set now. I mean, we think about, setting new moon intentions, and we should see something at the next new moon. The seeds you set with the Sagittarius new moon, you won't see much growth in those. And even with consistent action, the real world growth you will see of something happening out there in the world, that will be apparent at the full moon Sagittarius, in 6 months' time. So we're so used to everything being instant in today's world, but your new moon, you set your intentions on the new moon. It's that equivalent full moon 6 months later where you start to see the real emergence. You can see tangible growth or change from those intentions. So use these days. use this quiet period to sit, work out what you want, work out what you want to contribute to the world, what you want to feel in your own life. It doesn't have to be massive, you know. Not all of us are going to become political leaders and stuff like that. But it's like, how can I contribute to my community? What local things can I get involved with? How could I help out at schools, or how could I do this? How could I do that? You know, um, we want to be clear what we want in life in terms of our career, our relationships, our family, our spiritual beliefs, our financial lives. We need to get clear in that, and work out, you know, how we are going to create that for ourselves, and then what do we want our society, like I said, to look like. So it's a big time. These are big crux changes. So a real pivot, real huge rarity in the astrology of things going on at the moment. So these, you know, these are not like, you know, you'll never have this opportunity again in your lifetime kind of thing. So grab it with both hands. Really do seize it, make the most of it. So set some really meaningful intentions, you know, big goals for yourself on the new moon. Sit with those, think about them, rest, and then let everything go at the solstice that is going to stop you from achieving them. All those fears, all those beliefs. Make sure you clear the energy in your home out as everything starts to be reborn again. So, thank you for sharing with me. And I hope that actually, you know, stay away from the doom scrolling on the news, you know, like you say, because everything is collapsed, but everything is happening in divine order. It's actually incredibly potent time. Little roots of new growth are stirring within you. And in the new year, those new shoots will begin to see in your life. So it's actually a power. It's a moment of incredible promise. It's a moment of incredible potency. It's a moment of incredible power. And, you know, plan for adventures, plan for great things. We've been through a very constricting sort of 5 years post COVID and everything, and controlling, you know, controlling government and state and everything. You know, we've been through that period. And it's now time to really start to embrace our expansion and embrace our potential. That's what we're being asked to do. So thank you very much for joining me. And I hope that you, as I say, embrace this moment. And I will see you again next time.